Well, thank you for being here, Professor. You said something about the accountability and the search for trust. Could you elaborate a little bit about that idea?
Yes, the traditional ways of relating to one another in my country are often thought of as legal. The contract of marriage, the license of birth. We think of all of the ways the law guides us. We talk less about things that we do because we simply trust one another. In the family, that's quite comfortable. When you get outside the family, it's a little more difficult. And when you get into the market, it can get very difficult. So it's the idea of seeing what we can do beyond the family. What can we teach people in terms of learning to trust? How can we have experiences with trust? I will trust you if I have good experiences, but if I don't have good experiences, I won't trust you. So that's the reason I'm interested in it.
In terms of the fight against corruption, what is the importance of trust in social terms?
Yes, if you try to fight corruption with the law, you can make a little headway. People worry about going to jail. They worry about being sued, and they should, and the law can help you. But you can get much further with trust. I mentioned air travel in my talk. The air travel system involves many, many participants, airline companies, nations, fuel companies, airports, on and on, and they all have legal relationships with each other. What they learned is that the legal relationships are not nearly as important as the trust relationships. That they know if one pilot says to the air traffic control a certain thing, they can trust that comment. They don't have to call a lawyer or check the code book. They understand, and I think that example of trust in very complicated systems, we have a phrase we use called high reliability systems, and I like that. I think air travel is a high reliable system.
Absolutely.
High accountability. We need to try to get a little higher in traffic management, in schooling, and all the other purposes of government.
And there is no other chance, because when you are flying,
yes, that's right.
you don't have any other chance.
Yes.
A different chance. So the fighting against corruption is a matter in your conception of law enforcement?
Partly, but law enforcement is, it has two purposes: to cause you to remember that if you do a certain thing, you might get caught. So it deters crime. But then if you commit a crime and you are caught, then you are brought to justice. So it has both of those. I think that the idea of law enforcement as a community system whereby the people in the community say, this is what we expect in terms of behavior. If you do not behave this way, then we have no trust for you. That needn't be based on law. That can be based on community standards, on understandings between neighbors. And I think when that is well established, I think life is much more comfortable.
In terms of, if I understand what you are saying, is that people or citizens must trust its governments?
If the government,
or the people in government.
If the government deserves trust,
exactly.
Then that happens. I think we see it more often in cities. It's very difficult at the national level, but at the city level, where you have neighborhoods and families and generation after generation of people, you can get some levels of trust. You cannot manage without law. You must have law. But if you only have law, then you've got a problem. So I'm saying that trust is what you have in addition to law, and when trust is stronger, that the government is more effective and life is better.
It could be that as human beings we are condemned to live with corruption until the end of times.
Well, people are weak, people are lazy, but people are also good, and I think most of the time most people want to be good. But how to deal with the lazy one, how to deal with the dishonest one, is always, it's as ancient as time and will always be. But I think democracy is the best way.
Is there any little hope?
Yeah, oh yes, I think so. The comment made about Mexico, Mexico has had a transition to democratic government. It's been quite successful. This is no longer one revolution after revolution after revolution.
Or authoritarian government.
Oh yes, yes. And I think the last 25 or 30 years, quite remarkable, I would say.
And that works in order to have a better government, a better non-corrupt officials or members of government.
Yeah. People are anxious about their government and a little concerned, and they don't know how much they can trust their government. But I think the Mexican people generally are no longer worried about a coup d'etat or the army taking over.
Not all over Latin America.
That's past. I think mostly.
But
In my
what is the
country,
relationship between that condition and the corruption that invades all the spheres in the public
corruption
policy?
makes it more difficult. And there are certain traditions of corruption in your country, small bribes.
Or big ones.
There have always been that. And I think it's good news that this kind of workshop, this kind of seminar is going on. I think that the political leaders are inclined not to worry more about corruption. In my country, the progressive movement began in 1875, and it took until 1945, till the end of the Second War. But we had corrupt mayors, we had corrupt governors.
Legislators.
Oh yes, many legislators. And now our government is relatively clean, but it took a very long time of doing it, and a lot of politics. The people learned that if they had a corrupt governor, the next time they could vote for somebody else.
Yeah.
And they didn't need to have a coup d'etat, just vote for somebody else. That's easy to say, but I think that...
Or when you have a system of accountability which you can use to overthrow a governor
or expose corruption.
Exactly.
Yeah, and sometimes if you expose it, then the political process will do the overthrowing, I think.
All right. Well, there is a lot of work to do.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor.
My pleasure.
For your time.